This is the Skeptic Squared podcast.
A safe place to make light of sacred things.
My name is Matt.
And I'm Corinne.
And in this program, we will be discussing current events related to religion, atheism, and skepticism. Our goal is not to insult believers,
Although that will probably happen from time to time.
but rather to share our point of view on these topics in a way which will benefit and entertain others.
Or maybe we just want to stroke our own egos. You decide.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Squared podcast. Today is June 26th, 2016, and with me is my wife Corinne, who is laughing at my fumbling words.
You do this so often.
It's been 2 weeks. We didn't do it last week. So we have lots of different things that we want to talk about today. Let's see. To start with, I thought it would be kind of fun to talk about an article I found in the Deseret News. So, in the early to mid 90s, there was what the Mormon Church might have called a rash of Mormon historians uncovering controversial things within church history, and they were publishing books and articles on it, and there were 6 historians in particular who were excommunicated because they valued intellectual integrity and scholarship more than doing what the church was asking them to do, which was to whitewash the church's history. So things like letters and things about Joseph Smith's polygamy and blacks in the priesthood and things of that nature, and like the early folk magic of the church, things like that. Well, one of the men who was kicked out, one of the historians, is a man named D. Michael Quinn. So he has kept pretty active within the Mormon historian community and has continued to write books and articles on church history. And he has gained quite a bit of credibility as a historian despite being kicked out of the church, which is kind of cool. And according to the Deseret News, let's see, this article, I want to get the time on this right, June 11th. So it was a couple weeks ago when this happened. So he was given an award. I'll just read the first one. So, former LDS General Relief Society leader Eileen H. Clyde and author D. Michael Quinn have won the highest awards presented this year by the Mormon History Association.
Oh, so they got them from Mormons?
Right, the Mormon History Association.
Okay.
So this isn't just a historical, like a historian award.
Right.
This is specific to the Mormon Church. I'll skip down to where they talk about his actual award. It says Quinn received the Leonard J. Arrington Award, bestowed annually on a scholar for distinguished and outstanding service to Mormon history. Selection Committee Chairman Thomas G. Alexander said Quinn's 1987 book, so this was before he was excommunicated, the book Early Mormonism and the Magic Worldview, that's a provocative title, was a, quote, a prize-winning, imaginative, and path-breaking study of the relationship between traditional folk magic and early Mormonism. Quinn's book laid out the arguments tying Mormonism to the Hermetic tradition. 2 biographies of President J. Reuben Clark, who was a Mormon church leader a few decades ago. Can't remember when he died exactly.
I can't either.
So 2 biographies of President J. Reuben Clark offer well-considered insights into the life of an extraordinary leader of the LDS Church. Alexander said 3 of Quinn's books on the Mormon hierarchy are, quote, meticulous studies of the business, cultural, and familial relationships of church leadership. Although a controversy surrounded the book, Same-Sex Dynamics Among 19th Century Americans, a Mormon Example, the book broke new ground in Mormon studies. So they even acknowledged the one where he talks about gay issues, which is kind of cool.
That's interesting.
I thought it was interesting, yeah.
Okay.
Nothing to add?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I don't know anything about these awards.
Well, I just think it's really cool that it's a Mormon history group that's giving him this award after he's had so much flack given to him by the church.
Are they actually Mormons, current Mormons, that are giving him, like, this organization?
The award? As far as I'm aware, I mean, this is in the Deseret News. One of the other people, like, they have a picture here with D. Michael Quinn and the chairman, and right next to them is Richard Bushman, who is another church historian who wrote, what was it, Rough Stone Rolling or something like that?
Oh.
Or No Man Knows My History. One of those two books.
Oh.
Or maybe even both, I don't know. I haven't read either of them. But they're like two really popular books among the ex-Mormon community because they talk about a lot of the more controversial aspects of Mormon history. Mm-hmm. And as far as I'm aware, Richard Bushman is still an active member. Anyway, so I thought that was cool.
Just would be interesting to know how much church leadership has to do with those awards. Because that would be really amazing.
If it was from church leadership?
Yeah, if church leadership had anything to do with awarding those.
Well, don't you know, they're just too busy going to conferences talking about the ails of pornography and how, you know...
And yelling at new members.
And yelling at new saying that medicinal marijuana is a gateway drug.
Right.
So, a week ago, when we decided to not record, there was a shooting in Orlando, Florida, at a gay nightclub. And the last count that I heard was 49 people were killed, and at least that many were injured.
It was like 53 were injured, most in critical condition.
And the man who did this, from what I have heard in the news, is that he was a Muslim. He wanted to be associated with ISIS, but as far as I could tell, he wasn't officially part of ISIS. He just liked their ideas or whatever. And he just took an assault rifle into a nightclub and just shot a bunch of people, took a hostage, and then after killing a bunch of people, he shot himself, right?
No, police shot him.
Police shot him. Oh, okay. And then afterwards, there was this huge outcry among Americans saying, well, I mean, most of it was positive things like showing solidarity, you know, like we may not like gays, but at least they're Americans, you know, that kind of mentality was being bandied about quite a bit by more conservative Christians, which I find, I don't know, I have mixed feelings about that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's great that you're not in favor of killing gay people, but you're still not exactly on their team.
Yeah, it's just the love the sinner, hate the sin mentality still.
Right. But there have been other people who have said that the Bible says that you should kill gay people. And there have been a couple of pastors in particular who have been very vocal about this. And they have said things like, it's a pity that he didn't kill more of them. Don't cry, this isn't a tragedy. You know, there are 50 less pedophiles in the world. Those kinds of things, like really horrific things were being said by these pastors. I think there's like 2 or 3 that were being circulated quite a bit this week. Mm-hmm. Well, it turns out that most people don't really like that kind of talk. And one of the pastors has had his lease for his church revoked. Like they took it away.
That was in Portland, right?
I don't remember where it was.
I think it's in Portland.
Okay. But there's another pastor in Arizona, or maybe 2 pastors in Arizona, one of which I've actually seen before. Mm-hmm. I've seen him do videos where he basically says that he chose his wife because she understood biblical marriage. And she knew her place was to support him and defer all judgment to him.
We were talking about this guy just a couple weeks ago.
Right.
I don't remember why.
I don't remember why either. But it's the same guy. I'm trying to pull up the article right now, but it's on Raw Story, which is problematic on my iPad, so it takes a little while for it to load.
I'm pretty sure that one of those was in Portland because my aunt, who lives in Oregon, was sharing that all over the place on Facebook.
What was her take on it?
She just said, that it was good that they were being kicked out.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wasn't feeling like they were being persecuted.
Yeah.
She was on the opposite end.
It crashed.
Do you think that you have any family members that would side with these pastors?
No.
Okay.
But I've had... So one of the things that I want to talk about with this article is the fact that the Bible supports what they're saying.
Right.
These are Bible literalists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just
Did it
crashed.
crash?
It just crashed. So, okay, we can talk about that. So one of the things that I talked about with my mom early on in my atheism was the fact that there are so many atrocities in the Bible which God commanded.
Mm-hmm.
Things like genocide, taking out entire cities, taking virgins, all these kinds of things. And her response was, well, that was back in the Old Testament days, and it wasn't ideal, but it was God trying to make them better than what they were, and that whole kind of thing. But when it really comes down to it, at that point in time, if that argument holds any water at all, at that point in time, God was saying that those things were morally justifiable.
Okay.
So his name is Pastor Stephen Anderson.
Yeah. Did it just come up on yours?
It comes and goes. My iPad doesn't like this website at all.
Oh, that's weird.
That's why I try to avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they can't, true believers can't escape the fact that their God endorsed these kinds of things in the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm.
And it also is problematic when they use that argument because things like the Ten Commandments are in the Old Testament. In the long list of rules and prohibitions that include things like not laying with another man like you would a woman, and it's an abomination. All that kind of stuff. It's all part of the Mosaic Law. Yeah.
But don't worry, when Jesus came down, he got rid of all that stuff.
Got rid of all of it. Yeah. But that still doesn't undo the fact that God said that this was the moral thing for them to be doing at that time.
Right.
They can't escape that. But the thing that a lot of people really dislike about these people is that they shine a light on the fact that the Bible really does say these things. These pastors are just the most recent example, but there's the Westboro Baptist Church, which everybody is familiar with. They're the hate the fact or God hates facts guys, right? And they've been doing the same kind of thing for decades. Do you want to just read it? Because mine is just not loading.
Do you want me to read the whole thing or just what he said?
Just what he said. So he's talking about the social repercussions that other people have been putting onto him, that not like legal repercussions, like other people have been essentially boycotting him or protesting him. And one of the ways that they've been doing that is by petitioning to get his online fundraising sites taken down.
Yeah.
For hate speech reasons.
Okay. What I'm about to read is from Stephen Anderson.
Okay.
Not from me. Okay, so he says, "It's war. You know what the filthy sodomites have done toward our church and us, and our friends and our fellow pastors that actually have the guts to say what needs to be said? Here's what they've done in the last few weeks," he told his congregation. "They got our PayPal account shut down so that we can't take any more online donations. We set up with another company, GiveLet. They got that shut down. QGive, they got that shut down. BitPay, they got that shut down. They shut down our iTunes podcast. They shut down Brother Jimenez's PayPal account." Sorry.
Well, he's another pastor that
Right.
was saying the same kind of stuff.
Right. He's a California pastor.
Okay.
And they shut down Brother Romero's PayPal account. The landlord of Pastor Jimenez is saying, "Hey, we're not going to renew your lease." Yeah, that's what he said.
Okay.
So they got a lot of accounts shut down.
Right. So the way that he's trying to spin it is that this is infringing upon his religious freedom.
Right.
Which is similar to the arguments that have been going on about gay marriage and all that kind of stuff, like whether or not businesses should be forced to serve gay people or, make wedding cakes for gay weddings, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Which brings me to the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is that today is the 1-year anniversary of the Supreme Court ruling that legalized gay marriage.
That's perfect.
Right? So it's
didn't
been
even
all over
realize
my feeds. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything.
Okay.
I need new friends.
So one of the things that's been circulating around my feeds is an article from the Reverend Barry Lynn. So Barry Lynn is I think, Baptist reverend or pastor who is of the opinion that separation of church and state protects religious liberty. Okay, he's kind of the minority voice among Baptists, but he's very much a part of the conversation, and he is in charge of a group called Americans United for the Separation of Church and State. Which, from what I've heard, I don't know a whole lot about them, but they seem very much like ACLU or FFRF, like those sorts of organizations. Like, they seem to be doing a lot of really good work.
Okay.
But he wrote an article this week, a couple days ago, talking about some of the predictions that were made before same-sex marriage was legalized. And it's not terribly long, so I thought I would just read it, because he says it really well. It says, 1 year has passed since the marriage equality ruling. Let's find out just how many pastors have been forced to marry same-sex couples, which is something that a lot of pastors were afraid of, right? If you watched anything from like Fox News, that's all they ever talked about was now pastors are going to be forced to do this thing, which is against their religion.
They still talk about that.
Right. Okay, so he's addressing that. He says, we're fast approaching the 1 year anniversary of Obergefell versus Hodges, which is the, I know I butchered that, but that's the suit that led to the Supreme Court ruling. A ruling by the Supreme Court that had the effect of extending marriage equality nationwide. Prior to that decision, which marks its first anniversary on Sunday, today, several right-wing pastors, I can never say that right, warned that they would go to prison rather than obey the ruling. These far-right clerics, joined by religious right leaders, insisted that America's pastors would somehow be forced to preside at the weddings of same-sex couples. They boldly proclaimed their willingness to go behind bars rather than obey. Pastor Robert Jeffress, that was a fun face.
That's the face you made.
Pastor Robert Jeffress of the First Baptist Church of Dallas, who is he's a regular on Fox News. Oh, I've seen him ever since Mitt Romney ran. He was one of those guys that would say that Mitt Romney was a part of a cult and you shouldn't vote for him. This was like what he said like during the primaries. And then when he became the nominee, he said, "Oh, well, I was just saying, like the colloquial version of cult, which is just a small religion. I didn't mean it in the derogatory version, or the derogatory term," and that kind of thing. He's just totally backpedaling. He's just a sleazy kind of guy. Okay. Not a huge fan. Anyway, who was recently named to Donald Trump's Evangelical Advisory Council, vowed to engage in civil disobedience. Quote, "That may mean we experience jail time, but as the scripture says, we ought to obey God rather than man, and that's our choice," Jeffries told the Daily Caller website. Appearing on a Texas radio station, Rick Scarborough, a Baptist pastor and religious right leader, urged members of the clergy to sign a petition pledging to, quote, "resist all government efforts to require them to accept gay marriage, and they will accept any fine and jail time to protect their religious freedom and the freedom of others." So he's assuming responsibility, legal responsibility for anybody that doesn't obey this law. Richard Land, a former Southern Baptist Convention official, raised the specter of pastors in prison as well. Asked by Newsmax TV if the nation could come to the point where pastors end up behind bars for refusing to preside at marriage ceremonies for same-sex couples, Land replied, quote, "It could." Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, Oh my gosh,
Huckabee.
I cannot speak today. Mike Huckabee, who I want to point out has run for president at least twice that I'm aware of.
On the ticket of God.
On the ticket of God, yeah. Really went down the bend, or went around the bend. He said marriage equality could lead to the, quote, criminalization of Christianity. Okay? That's what Mike Huckabee thinks. Huckabee also said, quote, if the courts rule that people have a civil right not only to be a homosexual, but a civil right to have a homosexual marriage, then a homosexual couple coming to a pastor who believes in biblical marriage, who says, I can't perform that wedding, will now be breaking the law. In other words, Mike Huckabee has no idea what the Supreme Court ruling actually said.
Right.
So that's fun. Okay, we're almost done. Here we are 1 year later. Has any of this come to pass?
No.
No. To answer that question, Americans United created a new website to keep count of the number of pastors who have been forced under penalty of law to preside at a same-sex couple's wedding ceremony. I believe you will find this site interesting and useful, so please visit it today and help us spread the word by sharing it widely. So I'm clicking on the site right now. The URL is number of ministers forced to marry same-sex couples.com. Okay, quite a mouthful.
Yeah.
And here is what it says.
Zero. Period. Underline. That's funny.
Right. Kind of snarky. But it's
Are
a
they
fair
paying
point,
for
though.
that website?
Yes, this is Americans United. Like, this is their website. They did this. It says it so on the bottom. Anyway, I when I read that, I thought that that was pretty fantastic. We need to talk about that. So, yeah. Take that, Huckabee.
That's funny.
So, in a related but a little bit more somber note, a lot more somber, I have another article from KUER, which is a local news organization here in Utah.
Okay. Oh.
They're like KSL, which we've talked about them before, and I always ask the question, are they affiliated with the LDS Church or owned by the LDS Church?
And I have no idea.
I know KSL is at least in part.
Right.
Anyway, but it's a Utah news organization, and the article is called Youth Suicide Drives Down Utah Child Health Ranking.
Oh, I saw this.
Okay. So a new report shows that Utah is not making the same progress on children's health insurance coverage or child health death rates as other states. So they're actually getting worse, whereas other states are getting better. According to the Annie E. Casey Foundation, the state dropped from 7th to 27th in this year's child health ranking.
In a year?
Well, let me continue. So, Utah now has one of the lowest rates of child health insurance coverage in the nation and is last for Hispanic children. Okay, so they just don't have very much insurance. Terry Haven is deputy director for Voices of Utah Children. She says the other major reason why Utah dropped in its child health ranking is an alarming rise in youth suicides here.
Right.
So here's a quote. We've improved in some of the reasons why children die, but in terms of suicide rates, we've almost doubled since 2008.
Oh, wow.
So 2008
So in 8 years.
was when the Prop 8 thing was going on, and the Mormon Church was sending tens of millions of dollars to California to fight gay marriage at the state level in California. And there was lots of anti-gay youth rhetoric that was being spewed over the pulpits during that time. And since that time, it has the youth suicide rate has almost doubled. Okay. Continuing the quote. So that's a big, huge issue that we're looking at. Let's see. Haven says the reasons for this are many, but LGBT youth in particular are bombarded with harmful messages, which she says can be compounded by social media. It's like a perfect storm for what's happening to our fragile youth who are, having some issues and they're not getting the services they need to take care of it. So there you have it.
Mm-hmm. But so at the beginning of the article, though, you said that they dropped from 7th to 27th.
In their
so
child
that's still
health
in a year,
ranking.
though, right?
In their child health ranking.
Right, but that was still in a year.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
That's just an incredible drop.
Yeah, it is. So I'm not sure exactly what the child health ranking entails, like what is all involved in it. But I mean, the fact that they just come out and say that since 2008, Utah's youth suicide rate has doubled is just heartbreaking and phenomenal. You know, it's just terrible. It goes along with what we've been saying for so long. You know, like the Mormon church is not a safe place for LGBT people. And LGBT Mormon youth are targeted in a way that other youth are not, and are especially prone to suicide. You know, and if the church had any interest in saving those kids or reducing the rates of suicide, they would change the rhetoric. They would make it a more welcoming place for those kids. But they're not interested in doing that.
Right.
At least not right now. So how many kids have to die for the Mormon church to change their position?
So I think this might be some of the categories for child well-being. It's like material well-being, housing and environment, educational well-being, health and safety, risk behaviors, and quality of school life.
So it's quite a few areas.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is for different countries, though, so I don't know if it's the same from state to state. Sorry, that's a lot to read. I'm not going to read all of it right now.
No, it's fine. I'm surprised you looked it up anyway. Yeah. Okay, so moving on, you have something, right?
Yeah. So, I guess this really started last week, I think, when a coworker of yours...
Oh, yeah.
You want to tell that story real quick?
Well, let's see. So it was the end of my shift, and one of the staff coming in that was going to relieve me walked in and said, so my dad shared something really interesting. He said that on the radio, they were talking about how there's a new study that shows that hot drinks can cause cancer. And isn't it interesting that the word of wisdom says that you shouldn't drink hot drinks? It has nothing to do with caffeine.
Yeah. So he came home from work and related that story to me. And then the next day, while I was at work, just browsing the internet, I found an article that related to that. It was, I can't remember, I couldn't find the original one that I read, but there's
a few of them.
There's a few of them out there, and they all say the same thing. Basically, so after I read through the article said that, yes, hot drinks above a certain temperature, and it's like 149 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty hot.
It's pretty hot.
That is what can lead to esophageal cancer. But it's not necessarily what's in the drink. It's just the fact that it's super hot. So you could just drink boiling water, and it can break down the lining in your esophagus, which will lead to cancer cells to grow in your esophagus.
From what I understand, so what happens is when you get like a mild burn, from drinking hot water, it tears down the lining, tears down the tissue, and the body is in repair mode. So when it's in repair mode, it's actively trying to rebuild cells at a faster rate than what it would normally. And when it's in that mode for a prolonged period of time, it increases the chance that cancer cells will start to develop. Whereas if you just get a burn, you're not going to just get cancer. Right. Like this is like prolonged use kind of a thing, where you're constantly burning your mouth, getting these 1-2 degree burns in your throat, and then your body is constantly trying to repair itself. It's in that constant mode of repair. That's when you are at risk of it. Right. Anyway.
Right. And so I texted some of that to you, and we ended up talking about it when I came home. And you pointed out that what like, where does the hot drink end? Because it could be
Right.
hot soup. Like, so are we not going to be able to eat hot soup anymore? You know, like if
Right.
you're still a Mormon.
It doesn't even have to be a liquid.
Right. It doesn't
Anything
have to
hot.
be a liquid. Anything hot is going to do that to you.
Right.
That article also brought up that coffee up until recently has been considered to contain carcinogens, which is why people have tried to get other people not to drink coffee.
Right. Like Mormons.
Right, like Mormons. Although they never say that word.
I remember having those conversations.
I never had that conversation.
It was one of those things where it was like, well, I mean, it's like cigarettes or alcohol or any number of things where Mormons have a prohibition where others don't, and they just look for secular reasons to justify it, and then try to use that to influence non-members to follow your religious beliefs, and then hopefully you can use that as a missionary tool to say, see, isn't our church so cool? Like we knew this before science did,
Right.
you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the carcinogens, coffee has been taken off the list for carcinogens.
Right. By the CDC and the WHO.
The
WHO.
WHO. Yeah.
Sorry, I probably shouldn't say the WHO.
Give people the wrong idea.
Yeah, the WHO, World Health Organization.
Okay.
So those are pretty legit people to be taking this off.
Right.
This isn't just some like small science community that's doing this. The article also said that coffee could also decrease the chances for certain types of cancer, like liver cancer and I think endometrial cancer, by up to 15%. So there are benefits to drinking coffee as long as it's not that hot. So basically you just need to wait for the coffee to cool a little bit.
Right. To where it's not burning your mouth.
Right. So I found that article, and then a little while later on Facebook, people started sharing an article from LDS Living about the hot drinks. So that article is called "New Research Confirms Hot Drinks Are Not Good for Your Body," parentheses, but it's not about the caffeine. So this article, it starts off by, you know, like referring to some of the other articles that I had read about it, but it ends their information just before they get to the benefits of what coffee can do for you.
Of course.
Yeah, so they point out that hot drinks is in the word of wisdom, and how prophetic is that? You know, stuff that you typically would expect.
Right. It's the I told you so
Yeah.
kind of thing. But they didn't really tell anybody so because it wasn't a useful prohibition. It's not the sort of thing where it's like, you shouldn't do this because this will happen, or you shouldn't do this because this is the harm that it will cause. It's just, you shouldn't do this. You know, it's not useful in the sense that it actually furthers human knowledge.
Right.
You know, it's like people that talk about, well, they try to like weasel in scientific discoveries into like the Bible or the Quran or those sorts of things. And it's like, well, if those sorts of things were always sitting in those texts, in those scriptures, what good were they? It didn't, that's not how we knew that those things were the way that they are, you know. It's because we did science.
Right.
Do you even science?
Okay, so after I found that LDS Living article, a few days later, I found this one while browsing the internet at work again. This one says, LDS Church clarifies caffeine use to the members of the church. Now, growing up, and I'm sure you had a very similar experience, it was ground into our heads that we should not drink caffeine.
Right.
Drinking caffeine was not a good thing to do.
To the point where, I can remember specific instances where we would go to a restaurant and they would accidentally give us Coke.
Right.
And my parents would throw a fit and say, we ordered root beer. Like, this is unacceptable. And that kind of thing. Like we don't drink caffeine. And then there was one time when my older brother, Jason, got caught with empty cans of Mountain Dew in his car in high school. And my mom gave him a stern talking to.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the first time I had Coke, I think it was on my mission.
Really?
And I didn't like it. I still don't really like it.
Yeah. The first time I had caffeine, willfully had caffeine, was in college. I was 18. And all my roommates drank it. So I was like, oh, I'll try it.
First time I had a Mountain Dew was in college. It was at when I was working at RC Willey, like in their warehouse, and I was having trouble staying awake.
Oh.
So I drank it a little bit. And then Dr. Pepper was like a year or two after that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's interesting, at least for me, is that when I was in California, I didn't know any Mormon that drank caffeine. It wasn't until I moved here that like Mormons in my neighborhood were drinking caffeine. And that was a really weird thing for me to witness.
Yeah,
because,
the cultural shift.
Yeah, but at the same time, like my parents, whenever would go on like road trips or whatever, would drink caffeine.
Oh,
it was
really?
the only time they would ever do it. My dad would get Dr. Pepper or a Mountain Dew sometimes, and my mom would get a Dr. Pepper because she would get really bad headaches when we go on drives. But
I have okay, so just one more thing about the whole like Mormon culture against caffeine. I have an uncle.
Oh yeah.
who he has this personal policy. Where he says that he will never be made bishop because he drinks Coke. And so he drinks Coke on purpose to make sure that he never becomes bishop.
Right. Okay.
So it's a thing.
Yeah, it is a thing. But back to this article. So, so church response to the said manner. Quote, despite what was reported, the church revelation spelling out health practices, which is Doctrine and Covenants, does not mention the use of caffeine. The church's health guidelines prohibits alcoholic drinks, smoking or chewing of tobacco, and hot drinks, taught by church leaders to refer specifically to tea and coffee. So...
What about iced coffee?
Yeah.
Or iced tea?
Exactly. Because then it's only about the caffeine. Yeah, this whole caffeine thing, like, it shouldn't be a big deal, but it kind of is. Because while it's not written in, like, their scripture, and it's not written in their church handbook, church leaders have spoken specifically about caffeine. Yes. And in my recollection, it's been mostly Gordon B. Hinckley, who has specifically said not to drink caffeine.
Yep.
And you can find quotes on that.
Yep, he did it. He said it on, I think it was 60 Minutes with Mike Wallace.
Right.
Where Mike Wallace was just listing off like 3 or 4 things that Mormons do differently from other people. Things like not drinking alcohol, not smoking cigarettes, not drinking caffeine. And Gordon B. Hinckley's response was, yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
So, sounds like an endorsement.
Yeah. And he had a similar quote in a general conference talk that he gave too.
Did he?
Yeah. And where he specifically said caffeine. It wasn't hot tea and coffee. It was caffeine. So despite this quote, it is being taught. And even if it's not being taught over the pulpit anymore, it's still being taught in the home. Right.
It may not be doctrine, but it is a cultural thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it can almost be just as hard to combat.
Yeah. So the thing about this article towards the end is that it brings up BYU and their honor code.
Which is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Who wants to wear shorts?
Okay, so I'm just going to read this quote. So in the article it says, a news article published by Ben Winslow to Fox 13 says that the LDS Church-owned Brigham Young University caffeinated drinks are not sold. It is not because of a church or university edict, said spokesman Carrie Jenkins, but customer demand. And this, as soon as I read that, I was like, that is a blatant lie.
Absolutely.
Because it's not consumer demand to not have caffeinated drinks. You went to BYU, so you speak on that.
Yeah. So I knew several people who would just get a big old, like one of those big mugs that you can get from like 7-Eleven, like the half-gallon ones or whatever, and just fill it up with Pepsi and just go to class with a big old thing of Pepsi because they couldn't get it on campus.
No, the vending machines are full of non-caffeinated drinks. All the soda taps are only non-caffeinated drinks.
You can't even get it at on campus at all.
No.
And I actually wrote a blog post about this a couple of years ago because a couple of interesting things had happened. They'd had a similar article come out about this kind of thing, and what had happened was the vendor who stocks the vending machine accidentally put in the wrong kind of Coke. They put in Coke Zero with caffeine rather than Coke Zero without caffeine, and according to the article, it sold out like that. Like it was gone. And so that right there tells you that there is at least some demand.
Yeah.
Like as soon as word got out that there was caffeine in the vending machine, that particular type of soda was gone.
Yeah.
And another incident happened around the same time where there was a business venture, student-led business venture, where they had created some kind of online social thing where you could actually order soda hand-delivered to you on campus. So somebody would actually get a bottle of Mountain Dew and go to your biology class and hand it to you, and you would give them a couple of dollars, like that kind of thing, you know. maybe not actually in class, but like in the library, or
right.
You know, like between classes, that kind of thing, you know. And so to say that there is no demand shows that they either have no idea what the demand actually is, or they're just turning a blind eye to it, like they don't want it there.
Right. Which is the one I'm more inclined to believe.
Right. Because it's BYU.
Yeah, it's like whether or not it's written in your honor code is besides the point. Like the students have no say over what they're being served.
Right. And it's interesting that they bring that up in this article because they're saying that it's not about the caffeine when clearly there's this cultural aversion towards caffeine.
Yeah.
Like if their argument about BYU not having a demand for caffeine is correct, then that shows that the Mormon Church has created a culture where caffeine is a bad thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So which is it?
Yeah. And the other reason why this is just like problematic is, again, the idea of caffeine and not drinking hot tea and hot coffee because of the caffeine.
Right.
Like, that's not why we don't drink it. It's because it's hot.
Then cool it down.
Then cool it down, you know, have an iced coffee. And then there's the matter of hot chocolate.
Right.
That is a hot drink. You can burn yourself drinking hot chocolate.
It's just as hot as coffee.
Yeah. So we're allowed to drink caffeinated sodas. We're allowed to drink hot chocolate, but we can't put them together and have hot coffee or hot tea. And that, I think, is where the problem is.
Somebody, I'm trying to remember how they phrased it. It was a really clever post on Reddit where they were like, coffee is against the word of wisdom. Decaffeinated coffee is against the word of wisdom. Soda is not against the word of wisdom. Caffeine pills are not against the word of wisdom. So if you take a caffeine pill and put it into decaf, does that make it against the word of wisdom or not?
Caffeine pills aren't?
No, it's just a medicine kind of thing. Like people they'll take caffeine pills like if they have like a long drive or that sort of thing, you know.
And I don't know about energy drinks, whether those are, if there's an aversion to those too.
Maybe culturally, but it's a bit hit and miss.
Yeah.
I do know people that go to BYU that drink energy drinks.
Right.
And a lot of people who don't go to BYU that drink energy drinks.
That are LDS.
They're LDS, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a weird thing. Like, it shouldn't be a big deal, but it is kind of a big deal because it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
And it's pretty obvious how it doesn't add up.
And it's interesting to point out that the Mormon Church really hasn't come out and said much about energy drinks because it's like this new thing, right? So where's the modern revelation on whether or not it's okay to drink energy drinks?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Because they've been around for a while.
Right.
You know?
And there are talks about caffeine being the subtle addictive.
It's like a gateway drug.
Yeah,
you know?
I can't remember the title exactly of it, but I mean, it's a talk dedicated to caffeine, saying that while caffeine itself isn't necessarily a bad thing, what it does to you isn't needed for your body, basically. It's like there are other ways for you to get these energy bursts, so don't drink caffeine.
But they're not as effective.
They're not as effective, and who cares? If I can get it somewhere else, why can't I get it through the caffeine right now?
Right. Like, why draw the line?
Yeah.
Because, you know, religions love arbitrary lines.
Yeah.
Do this, but don't do this.
Right.
Do this thing that's similar to this thing, but don't do this other thing. You know?
Yeah. I don't
So,
know. And it's also kind of a big deal because members judge each other based on simple things like this.
oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like,
that's how these sorts
At
of
a
things
party,
become
if someone serves a
cultural
caffeinated
phenomenons.
drink, it's like, oh, well, I don't drink caffeine. Why is it here?
I'll just have water.
Yeah. Or, you know, if you're hosting a party and someone you know likes caffeine, it's like, well, if you want caffeine, you need to bring it yourself. It's like people are very obvious about their aversion to caffeine
don't
and
wanna be
how
an
they feel
enabler.
about someone else drinking caffeine.
Yeah. It's silly.
Yeah.
They act
it
like
is
it's
silly.
alcohol or cigarettes.
Yeah.
Because
And it's
the
nowhere
Mormon
near
mind,
as bad as those.
in the Mormon mind, there is no real difference.
But there's a huge difference.
There is. So,
Like, drinking soda is just going to make you fat and probably diabetic.
yeah, if you drink a lot of it, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that you were saying in the comment section
Oh, yeah.
was that there's a distinct taste difference between caffeinated and uncaffeinated, and some of the people were saying that they actually prefer the uncaffeinated versus the caffeinated sodas, right?
Yeah, I think it was specifically just Dr. Pepper that this person said. Yeah, I found caffeine-free Dr. Pepper to actually taste better than the caffeinated one.
Okay. Well, so you and I yesterday had the grand idea of going to pretty much every place on BYU campus, and just around Provo in general, like all the different grocery stores, and buying as many different types of soda that have both caffeinated and uncaffeinated versions
Well,
of
at
it.
BYU, we can only get uncaffeinated.
Yes. But, yeah, so we found 4 different types of soda that have both caffeine and not caffeine. And we thought that we would do a totally legitimately scientific study to determine whether or not there is, in fact, a taste difference.
Yes. So we're going to taste test 4 different sodas. So the sodas are Coke, just regular Coke, Coke Zero, Diet Mountain Dew, because that's all we could find at the time, and Diet Dr. Pepper, because we couldn't find regular Dr. Pepper caffeine-free. It is apparently hard to find.
Yeah. So I don't know where this guy making that comment was coming from.
Well,
so.
in that comment, that person said that it's really hard to find.
Okay.
But we're
All
going
right,
to start with Coke.
Yes. So.
And my eyes are closed, so I don't know what it is.
So I'm opening the Coke. Oh, that just sounds delicious.
That is really loud.
Maybe you should hum a song or something.
Why?
Just to pass the time. So here is the other Coke. We have them in cans and bottles.
Yeah. Caffeine-free seems to only come in cans, unless it's Barks root beer. We wanted to taste test that one, but we couldn't find the caffeinated Barks.
I know. Nowhere in Provo could we find it.
Nope. Which is just funny, because my mom always made a huge deal about having caffeinated root beer. She would check every restaurant to make sure that the red barrels were on the picture.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up thinking that it was pretty prevalent, but apparently it's not.
Okay. So yours are poured.
Okay. Do I get to open my eyes?
You can
for this
open your
part?
eyes now, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if I should drink it all the way or just sip it.
Take a couple sips. Let it kind of, take over your taste buds.
I feel like that's the caffeine-free one. Yeah, I like this one better.
You like this one better?
Yeah. Let me taste
Try it
this
again. Try it again. So there is a difference then.
Yeah, I taste a little bit of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like this one better.
Okay. Do you want to know what it is?
Yeah. You're going to mark it. It's the caffeine-free
It's
one?
the caffeine-free one.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So you actually prefer the
I like
caffeine-free Coke.
caffeine-free.
There you go.
Yep. Taste-wise.
There you go.
The caffeinated one has a weird sweet. But
Really?
I also don't really like Coke, and that's what I don't like about it.
Has a weird taste to it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So do you want to do me now?
Yes.
See if I can tell the difference.
Yes.
Should we get like a bucket for all the extra stuff that you don't want to drink?
We could. But
Okay.
it's okay.
All right.
Close
My
your
eyes are
eyes.
closed. Do, do, do. This is great radio.
Yeah. It's a lot of dead air. We just still need to talk about something.
Okay. Let's see. I've already shared all of my good caffeine soda stories. So, this one time,
At
band camp.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to go with the pink cup first.
Okay.
I don't taste much of a difference between them. Let me try it again.
It's too bad we don't have video. See her.
You're going to make me cough.
Is there one that you like better? Or do they taste the same?
They taste pretty close to the same. If I were to pick one, I'd probably go with that one.
And that's the uncaffeinated one.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's 2 for the uncaffeinated Coke.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we're moving on now to Coke Zero.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you need cups.
I got them. So,
Okay.
so here is the can.
Mm-hmm. I've never had Coke Zero before.
I don't know that I've had Coke Zero either.
And I just am going to say now that regardless of the outcome, caffeinated drinks should still be sold everywhere.
Right.
Like,
Give people a choice.
yeah, give people a choice. Because we are 2 people. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And we also grew up on uncaffeinated drinks.
That's true. Almost spilled.
It is a tiny cup.
You know what we should have done?
What?
We should have tried to get some sacrament cups.
Yeah, I wonder where they buy those from.
I don't know. Okay, you can open your eyes.
Okay. Same color cup.
Mm-hmm. It's like a wine tasting. Not a fan.
Yeah, these ones I'm having a harder time tasting a difference.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not sweetened in the same way as regular Coke, so...
They taste the same sweet as the regular Coke does, though. Like, I don't like it.
Really? Can't tell the difference.
I can't really tell the difference between the Zero. This one.
That one?
Uh-huh.
That is the caffeinated.
All right.
Okay. So 1 for caffeinated,
So 1 for
Coke
caffeinated.
Zero. Okay. Okay, my eyes are closed.
Good.
Go.
Don't rush me.
Go, go, go,
This
go,
is
go, go, go.
art. This does seem to be a little more fizzy.
You a bartender now?
Yes. I did learn how to get little foam serving beer at Disney World. I've never
Oh, that's
been able
fun.
to figure it out with soda.
How do you do it?
You have to tilt it a certain way. I haven't done it in a long time, so I probably wouldn't be able to do it now. But okay, go.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go with this one here. Ugh, I can just taste that diet.
It's not diet though; it's Coke Zero.
It is Zero. But it's
It
the same
does
kind
taste
of
the same, though.
It's the same kind of aftertaste. I just do not like it. It reminds me of our road trips where my dad would just get a case of Diet 7-Up
Oh,
and just
gross.
leave it in the back of the van.
Ew.
And yeah, that's what we would drink. Warm Diet 7-Up. Wow, those are like very, very similar.
Yeah, they're really similar.
I don't know if I can taste the difference. I had a really hard time with the last one.
I feel like there's a very, very subtle difference, but they still taste really similar.
Yeah.
I tasted more of a difference with the regular Coke.
I think this one has a little bit more of a bite to it. Like I like that a little bit better. Yeah, I'll go with that one.
It's caffeine free.
Caffeine free.
Yep.
There you go. I guess I just don't like Coke.
Yeah, I don't like Coke either. Okay, next one is Diet Mountain Dew.
I'm not looking forward to these.
Yeah. I'm definitely not looking forward to this one. I don't like Mountain Dew.
No. Okay. Remember, this is for science.
For science.
For science.
So Lagoon, I don't know if they still do this, but if you brought in a Coke can when you bought your ticket, they would give you $5 off. Or maybe it was $10, I can't remember. They would give you X amount of money off of your ticket. And so whenever me and my friends would go, one of our parents would drive us to the store, we'd buy a can of Coke, and then our parents would empty it out for us in the parking lot.
Oh, the workaround.
Right? It's like, so we bought a caffeinated drink, we just didn't drink it.
Okay, you can open your eyes.
Oh, this just looks gross. It's carbonated pee in a cup.
Yep. Irradiated. Irradiated carbonated pee. Is it delicious?
It's not terrible.
Okay. Your face says you don't like it.
Oh, my face is trying to communicate that it's hard to tell if there's a difference.
Mm-hmm. You're really puzzling over this one.
It's because this one I really can't tell a difference
very
easily. You can go with this one.
That one?
Mm-hmm.
That is the caffeinated.
All right.
There you go. So you seem to prefer the caffeinated ones.
I feel like the uncaffeinated ones taste more like what I don't like about diet sodas. The weird sugar flavor.
Makes sense. My ears are closed now, so
okay.
You're good.
Pouring, pouring, pouring.
Hope this isn't boring.
Right. Oh, it is. For everyone else.
See, I actually like Mountain Dew. I'm just not a huge fan of diet.
Ugh, my mouth tastes funny.
That's probably the diet.
Yeah.
And we did get some regular soda to wash this
To wash this down. Okay, go.
Okay. All right. Keeping with tradition, I'll go with the one on the right.
Swill, spit, sniff. Or sniff, swill, spit. I don't remember.
Ugh. It's that diet. I do not like diet. Those two are just very similar.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to burp on air.
I know.
I'm trying really hard not to burp on air. Letting out little tiny burps so I don't do a big one. The left one, I'm just not getting as much flavor out of it, I don't think. So I'll probably go with that one.
That's the caffeinated one.
All right.
Okay, final one is Diet Dr. Pepper.
Alrighty. This is one that I kind of look forward to.
Yeah, but only because Dr. Pepper's in the title.
Right.
Dr. Pepper is my favorite.
It just sounds so wonderful.
That's kind of what you said about the Coke, so. Too much?
A little too much. That one foamed up real good in the cup. Made a slight mess. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna drink some water real quick.
Cleanse the palate.
Yeah.
I thought about getting like some ginger, do like the sushi thing.
I hate ginger. Love sushi. Hate ginger.
Mm-hmm. Do it.
Ooh. Diet. I feel like there's a difference.
I feel like there should be a difference. And the verdict
I think this one.
is what? Better?
Better.
That is the caffeine-free.
Really?
Mm-hmm. You don't trust it?
I don't know. The one on the right tasted a little watery.
Mm.
Okay.
All right, last one.
Yep.
Eyes are closed. Go, 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 go,
Oh, I'm going.
go.
I'm going. Sorry, you're sticky.
I'm a little sticky, yes. And not for the usual reasons.
Oh, gross.
It's an inside joke that nobody else is privy to.
I don't think it needs to just... Well, okay.
Yeah.
Go.
Okay. There's that diet again.
Mm-hmm.
It is better than the Coke Zero, though.
Yeah. Ooh, that was going to be a big burp. And that was a tiny one.
That was a tiny one. I'm really trying.
I know.
The one on the right.
It's the caffeinated one.
Okay.
So
how do we do?
Basically, we both liked the uncaffeinated Coke.
Okay.
We disagreed on the Coke Zero.
Mm-hmm.
You liked no caffeine. Mountain Dew, we agreed. We both liked the caffeinated one better.
Mm.
And Dr. Pepper, we didn't agree. I didn't like the caffeine, you did.
Okay.
So it's like a hit and miss.
Hit and miss.
It just depends on your palate.
Yeah. Most of them didn't really have a really strong difference between the two.
I felt like the Coke one had a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you didn't, but out of all of them, I feel like Coke tasted the most different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Having had all of them now, I'd probably go with the Coke, probably having the biggest difference.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
For science. And now we have all this soda. But we have those syrups, so maybe if we mix them in, it won't taste so bad.
That's true. We do have some
Because
syrups.
we don't have to waste all of them.
Yeah.
Oh, there are also recipes. Some recipes that use like caffeinated sodas or like Coke or Dr. Pepper.
Or like marinades and
Yeah,
stuff.
for marinades. Mm-hmm. And my mom will always look for the uncaffeinated stuff for that.
Huh. That sounds like something she would do.
Yeah. It's just interesting because, again, you know, she'll drink it occasionally, but as soon as everyone's going to be eating it, she's not going to put it in. I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah. So, with the experiment, what did we learn?
We learned that it doesn't really matter if it's caffeinated or not. Just let them drink what they want.
All right.
And stop lying about it.
Yeah. Stop acting like this is a phenomenon where, you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
Choice doesn't matter.
And like caffeine isn't the worst thing in these drinks. It's the sugar.
In a lot of ways, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about it. 65 grams of sugar in this Coke. Yeah, it's a lot of sugar. And I don't have any others to compare it to because the others are diet or zero, so...
60, you said?
65.
Wow.
Coke caffeine-free has 39 grams. So less sugar as well.
That's more sugar than the coffee that we make.
Yeah.
The cocoa that we add to it
Yeah.
has like, what is it, 17 grams?
Something like that.
Yeah. Even like the high sugar content in Stevens is only like 30.
The uncaffeinated also has fewer calories. So
So
maybe there is a health benefit. But again, who cares?
people don't drink soda for health benefits.
No.
So the last thing that I wanted to talk about was a post that I made on Facebook a couple days ago. Let's see. Actually, it was almost a week ago. So I posted on Facebook a link to an article from The Friendly Atheist, who has a great little blog where he talks about atheist issues and religious issues and human rights issues, all those kinds of things. And the article that he posted was about atheists lying to their believing parents. It's titled, "I love my Christian parents, but I have lied to them." And it's pretty short. It's just a little picture from a Facebook page called Humans of New York. It says, "My parents are fundamentalist Christians. I love them, but I have to lie to them a lot about my life." And then the Friendly Atheist adds at the bottom, it's amazing, isn't it, that Christians who frown upon lying can put pressure on others to do it in their presence. As one commenter puts it, there's an alternative. You don't have to lie to them. You just have to adjust to living without their approval. And this happened, he posted this around the time that I had listened to an episode of Infants on Thrones, where the guys on Infants on Thrones interviewed John DeLynn, and John DeLynn, who was excommunicated from the Mormon Church about a year or so ago, has been kind of adjusting to ex-Mormon life, and in their conversation, he admitted that he probably is an atheist, but doesn't like the label atheist. He doesn't want to adopt that label as his identity and all this kind of stuff. And some of the guys in the group made the comments, it's not just about you, it's about other people as well. Like there's a lot of stigma attached to the label atheist. And one of the ways that, for instance, homosexuals have gained a lot more acceptance in the public sphere is just by people being out of the closet, being open and honest, and like embracing the label. And John DeLynn kind of sort of warmed up to that idea by the end of the conversation. And by the time I finished the interview, I was just like, I am going to start posting stuff on Facebook. Because for a really long time, for years, I have avoided posting things on Facebook. I've avoided conversations on social media. Like the only real exception to that was my Facebook profile picture that I changed to Boyd K. Packer with a rainbow over it, which was super controversial. Yes. But I only ever post like 2 or 3 things a year. Yeah. And one of the other things that I posted was about the November policy for the Mormon Church not baptizing children of gay people, and those sorts of things. And so I decided that I was going to be a little bit more open about it on Facebook. I was going to be, just do the sort of thing that they were trying to get John DeLynn to do. Just embrace it and be open about it in a public kind of way so that they can destigmatize the label a little bit. And so I've been liking a lot of things from different groups, a lot of secular groups, a lot of atheist groups, a couple of groups that are a little bit satirical, a little irreverent. Things like God on Facebook. He's a satirical version of God that posts really, really funny things. So funny. A scary Bible quote of the day is a pretty funny one. But most of it's like, the Secular Coalition of America, the FFRF, ACLU, like those sorts of things where they talk about civil rights stuff. And because this week had the shooting in Orlando, there was a lot of stuff. Okay, so I was liking a lot of stuff. And so I got a response from one of my friends from Seattle who is a member, but I haven't really stayed in touch with her very much since graduating from high school. Still burping from that soda. So I guess I should just read what I wrote about the article and then read her response, and then we can talk about it. So this was my response to the article itself. I said, this describes my feelings the past few weeks because of the whole John DeLynn thing, and also the friend that I met at the Gay Pride Parade, or over that weekend, who I found out had gone through a faith crisis and didn't know that I had gone through a faith crisis. Frankly, I'm tired of censoring myself and hiding my disbelief. I'm tired of hiding myself from people who should be willing to accept me. I'm especially tired of coming across old friends and finding out that while they were going through a faith crisis, they had no idea I had already gone through the same thing. My faith crisis was the loneliest period of my life. If anyone is doubting their faith and needs a listening ear, please reach out to me. If any of my friends or family have questions about my faith transition, please reach out to me. So I tried to make it very open. I was trying to be accepting. I was trying to be encouraging. And this was the response that I got from this person. Okay, so this is what my old friend, Mormon friend, had to say. I've thought a lot about your post over the last week and wanted to share my thoughts. I wholeheartedly agree that you shouldn't hide who you are or your beliefs, but I also believe that one must be respectful in the way we share our beliefs. I had dinner with a work colleague last night who is an atheist. He asked me quite a few questions about Mormonism. We had a really interesting conversation, and at one point he said, I learned a long time ago that if I expect Christians to respect my choice not to believe, then I need to respect their choice to believe. I have quite a bit of experience in keeping relationships alive with friends and family who have chosen to leave the church. My sister is my best friend, and yet our religious beliefs at this point in our lives are completely different. Even so, we remain close friends. We butt heads from time to time, but always find a way to work things out. Matt, I will be honest. I've come close to unfriending you because you are so disrespectful at times of the truths and organization that I hold dear. I know that you wouldn't care if I unfriended you. But as you work to remain close with your family, I would challenge you to be kind in the way you share your beliefs and any concerns you have. You can't control how your family responds to you, but you can choose how you respond and present yourself to them. I don't mean to cause any offense, and I hope you don't mind me sharing my 2 cents. So, this is somebody that I respected quite a bit growing up, and I still do. I still look up to her. I think that she is a good example of what progressive Mormon can be. Like she's still very conservative. At least when I knew her, she was very conservative. But she was still very willing to be friends with non-Mormons, more so than a lot of my other Mormon friends.
Okay.
So I believe her when she says that she has a lot of experience in keeping relationships alive and all that kind of stuff. The problem that I have, though, is that she's saying this to me on my Facebook page and criticizing the way that I run my own Facebook page. Mm-hmm. It's not like I've gone to anybody else's Facebook page and posted these things. Mm-hmm. These are things that I've put on my Facebook page. Right. Okay. And to me, it seems, I don't know, I don't see what I've done on my Facebook page as being extremely disrespectful to the point where people would justifiably unfriend me. A lot of people have. When I posted the picture of Boyd K. Packer, mm-hmm. Over 15 people unfriended me mm-hmm. because of that picture. But I've been thinking a lot about her comment, and it raises an interesting question, though, about how do you have civil disagreements about religious beliefs, especially when, like with the Mormon Church, they think of themselves as being alienated and ostracized on the national stage mm-hmm. or worldwide stage, and so they have a bit of a persecution complex. Only a bit. And then the other side is a fringe group of that group, which is people that leave that religion. Mm-hmm. Okay. And, what is the line? Like, how do you interact? How do you keep it civil? Is it reasonable to expect somebody who has been hurt by their organization, by the organization that this person reveres so much? Is it reasonable to expect them to stay quiet about the hurt that they've experienced? Right. I don't think that anybody who really understands the level of pain that a faith crisis can cause can really honestly say that a person should keep quiet about it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There have been a few other things that I've wanted to say to her. My response to her was basically, thanks for your input. I'm curious what it is that you feel I've been disrespectful about in my posts. And she hasn't responded yet. It's been a couple of days. So
She's not going to respond.
I don't know. Maybe not. It took her a week to respond to my original post anyway. But we'll see. But it raises an interesting conversation. It's something that I want to talk about. Some of the things that I've been thinking about with it that I want to say to her, but I haven't yet. It kind of depends on whether or not she responds. But some of the things I've been thinking about is, every day that I live in Utah County, I am berated by Mormon culture. Every single day, I am potentially offended by things that other people do. Whether it's a Facebook post or a conversation that goes on at work, comment that a coworker might say.
Spending time with my family.
Spending time with your family. Or just driving to work, there's a big old billboard that says, when you die, you will meet God. And it reminds me what true believers really do think about people like me, apostates. So it makes it really hard for me to take them seriously when they say that they've been offended, when every single day I have to be offended, or I can choose to be offended. Generally, I just let it roll off my back because it's just the culture that I'm in. But sometimes it gets to me. Sometimes I feel like lashing out. Sometimes it really bothers me that people think these things about people like me, and that they refuse to understand what a faith crisis does to a person.
Right.
It's like when Tyler Glenn did his video Trash. All of the comments were about how disrespectful he was to the beliefs of other people. They completely missed the point that he was making, that his faith crisis was hurtful. It caused him real pain and anguish.
And he's angry.
And him lashing out in that kind of way, him like exposing the temple signs and spitting on Joseph Smith's face and all of those things that he did in the video, is a form of him taking power back that the church took from him.
Yeah.
One of the other things was that the purpose of this particular post was to reach out to people who are currently going through a faith crisis. It wasn't about being disrespectful.
No.
And in a way, I'm sorry that her belief system has kind of been caught in the crossfire of that. But on the other hand, I'm not that worried about it.
Right.
It doesn't concern me. Her staying in the church is her choice, and that's fine. But there are who knows how many people sitting in the pews today's Sunday, who don't believe, who have doubts, and who are told by their church leadership that they need to keep quiet, they need to not ask their questions openly. If they have any concerns, they need to go to the bishop or the stake president and talk to them only behind closed doors. If they are caught going to open forums or doing it say an interview on Mormon Stories with John Dehlin, then they could face excommunication for even associating with those people.
Yeah, at least disfellowship.
Right. These are very real threats, and this is a way of the church using a policy of dividing and conquering doubters and keeping them feeling like there's something wrong with them, when in fact there isn't anything wrong with them. There's something wrong with the church.
Right.
If you can't make yourself believe unsupported nonsense for no good reason, to borrow Aaron Ra's phrase, that isn't a fault of yours.
Right.
That means that their package isn't worth buying. They're snake oil salesmen. And they want people to feel like if they don't buy their product, if they don't buy into their religious beliefs, then they are deserving of some kind of eternal consequence, and that they need to keep quiet about it. They shouldn't be raising these questions, and doing so is disrespectful to them. It's like I loathe some of the things that the church taught me. I hate some of the things that they taught me
Yeah.
growing up. We've talked about it before. You know, I hate that they turned me into a homophobic person. You know, I hate that, that they did that to me. I hate that they made me feel shame and guilt about my body and my sexuality. I hate that they made me feel, you know, that, like what they say is sexual sin is second only to murder.
Yeah.
You know, and then they teach kids that, you know, experimenting sexually with their own body in like the most natural way possible is this evil thing, second to murder. Okay, that's from the Book of Mormon.
Yep.
You know, and you can back it up with quotes from church leaders too that list things like masturbation and homosexuality with rape and incest and bestiality. You know, and murdering people.
Yeah.
It's like those are the things that really, really get under my skin when I think about my Mormon upbringing. Like, sure, we did service. We did Boy Scouts, and we went out on some cool activities. But that doesn't make up for the fact that they made me hate gay people. That doesn't make up for the fact that they made me hate my own body. You know, and it took me years to even be comfortable being intimate with somebody. You know, like stunted my development for years.
Yeah.
You know, and I hate that they created that situation for me.
Yes. I feel that 100%. Still contend with those things.
It's a bit ranty.
It's okay.
And I also really don't like the fact that she put this comment on this particular post where I was trying to reach out to people that are suffering, people that are really struggling with a real crisis of faith.
Right.
And she puts this on that post.
Right. Of all the posts, it should have been the Boyd K. Packer one.
Or it should have been its own comment.
Or it should have been its own comment. Or a private message.
Right. But basically what she's saying is, by putting it on this post, maybe she probably didn't intend for this, but the way that it comes across is me reaching out to people who are doubting is disrespectful to her beliefs.
Right.
Which is absolutely untrue.
Yeah.
Absolutely untrue. And it's not even close to what I was intending.
No.
I knew that some people would take it that way. But that's because fundamentalism is that kind of way. You know?
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's about all I had for that post.
Okay.
Do you have anything to add, or maybe, I don't know, you're still kind of more or less in the closet?
I'm still very much in the closet.
Very much in the closet. Like, there's only a
I
few
only
people.
have one sister that knows.
Yeah. Have you been open with anybody else?
In my family?
Just anybody? I know you've told, like, some of the people we've had on the show and some of the conversations we've had with some of my friends, like over dinner, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think only your friend Aaron. Who else has been on the show? Just Megan and Melissa. So Megan knows. Yeah, you can count on one hand the amount of people that know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still very much in the frame of mind that I'm just worried about liking things or posting comments on things. Because literally everyone on my Facebook page is some way affiliated with the Mormon Church. So, or religion. That's why I need new friends.
Yeah. And and that's one of the things that keeps so many people within religion, is that they've built their whole social structure around their religious beliefs. And
well, it's like,
breaking away from that is really
like,
hard.
People like us, like, we didn't even have a choice. Like, the structure was built for us already, and that was just what was familiar. It's like, oh, there's an option outside of this. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, my entire life has been, oh, she's the good girl. So, you know, I just kept my mouth shut, never asked questions, and was like, okay, I'll be president. Even though I hated it, you know. So, yeah, I'm still very much tied to those people that said those things about me, you know, that only saw what was going on the outside. Yeah.
And they had no idea the internal struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, and so many people are in that kind of position where they just put up the facade that they're a true believer. They're sitting in the pews, acting like they're doing. It's the same conversation that I've heard countless people criticize David Silverman over his billboards for American Atheists is the organization, and they have these billboards that come out usually like around religious holidays like Christmas or Easter, and it's things like it's a myth, or Jesus is a fictional character just like Santa Claus, those sorts of things.
Or I think like one was like atheists celebrate Christmas too, come celebrate with us. Like really innocent things like that are up on those billboards too.
Yeah, but the idea, so he goes on to these programs like Fox News, and they berate him about how disrespectful it is, okay? And his response is, like, I understand where you're coming from, like, and I can see how you could see it's, disrespectful in a way, but I'm not reaching you. But you're not my audience. My audience is the atheists and non-believers and doubters that are sitting in the pews, going through the motions, pretending to believe. I'm reaching out to them and letting them know that they don't have to do that anymore. They can come out and say that they don't believe, that they have questions, that they doubt, and we will welcome them. Like, there's nothing wrong with them for having doubts.
Right.
And that's what his whole tactic is. And I think that's pretty analogous to what I've been doing as far as like liking stuff on Facebook. I'm not reaching out to believers. I'm reaching out to the people that are pretending to believe, people that are stuck in a faith crisis and have no one else to talk to, nowhere to turn. And they're in this cycle of guilt and pain and repentance and pretending to believe and all this kind of stuff, trying to convince themselves that they do believe. It's terrible. It's a terrible experience, and it's lonely, and it's isolating. It makes you feel like there's something wrong with you, and there isn't.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's our show.
Yes. Yeah, we'll call it quits now. So thanks for listening.
If you would like to contact us, you can email us at skepticsquaredpodcast.blogspot.com. And wait, I totally messed that up, didn't I?
Did you?
I did. I said the blog when I was intending to say the email. So the blog is skepticsquaredpodcast.blogspot.com, and the email is skepticsquaredpodcast@gmail.com. I think I got that right.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Okay. All right, well, that was a bit of a roller coaster of an episode.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye-bye now. Drink some caffeine.